Welcome to the Rocket and Raygun Awards, everybody, and welcome to my old friend Steve Tilley. It is so wonderful to see your face, my friend. How are you?
Possibly one of your oldest friends.
Seriously, we've known each other for, okay. We don't need to go there right away.
It is great to see. Video games, we knew each other, kids. We were friends in the Hopscotch League.
You know what that means? It means that we just know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a while.
Exactly.
And we know how to call these things.
Veterans.
That's right, KG veterans.
We're never wrong.
We've learned a few things. Steve, we don't work together enough, and it sucks. And I miss you. I miss you, and I miss the other compatriots that I have been able to, convince to work with me over the years. I love the people that I've been able to work with. It's just been amazing. But where can people find your stuff? Where can people catch up with Steve Tilley out there?
The best place, if I have anything to say that is of any note, which is very rare, it's usually on my Twitter. So at Steve Tilley.
Okay.
And that's where you can find my goings on. Yeah,
awesome.
And that's Tilley with an EY.
Awesome.
Spell my name wrong.
I got you. You're right up here.
Okay.
I put your Twitter URL in the name key.
Excellent.
So we're going to have some fun today. We are going to get into the best PC games, and I already checked I put a little poll on the EPN community page, and I saw that no one likes the choices that I made for the PC games. So we're going to talk about those in a second. But we're also going to be talking about best action adventure and the best remake and remaster, which is a huge category, maybe the most contentious category of 2020. And it's been a miserable year, and there's been lots of awful things out in the world. But in the video game universe, pretty good. Pretty damn good.
It's been good in the games universe, and it's been a great year to really get caught up with old games and try out new games and just sit on the couch and not go outside and play video games.
Before we get into all of this awards rigmarole, I want to ask you something, because you've been gaming as long as I have. Are you, I see you have some of the little mini arcade machines just like I do. I love these things. Are you going back to retro games? Are you going into some of the cartridges and old CD-ROMs and stuff that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to move my camera too much to toss around, but just to the other side of the arcade games, I have a cabinet full of N64, Dreamcast, and Intellivision cartridges.
Amazing.
So I've got an entire cabinet devoted to my retro game station. I had a custom built for an old Sony Trinitron TV.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I have a mid-condition Dreamcast, N64, Genesis, and Intellivision.
Steve,
so yeah, I occasionally dabble. You could say I dabble.
Let's do a regular check-in on retro games together.
Oh, heck, sure, yeah.
Wouldn't that be?
I'm more about the tactile experience of actually holding the old cartridges and the old controllers, as opposed to emulation or retro games on the new consoles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a weird hobby collection obsession of mine, going back to my distant childhood and playing with the games that I played with then.
I love
the actual systems that we used then.
I love it. Everything goes. I'm certainly into the ease of HDMI because I record all the stuff and have to put it, I just can't deal with a million pieces of tech between playing and then getting it into a review or something.
I totally get that.
It's got to be simple. But that is awesome. I did not know that. But I feel like it's in the air, like people are talking about video games across decades right now, and it's really cool.
It's comforting too. It's comforting to go back to the games you knew, right? Like this is a year when we talked earlier this year about our comfort games. I think this is going back to the old systems and the old cartridges. I don't know. It's nostalgic, but nostalgia in a way is also kind of comforting. It's to have those touchstones to the past in a year that's been kind of weird and off the rails it feels nice. It's reassuring.
Totally. And you make everybody makes the analogy to like putting on a record or going to a record store. There is this kind of tactile thing about plopping in an old cartridge or a CD-ROM that you've been playing hanging on to forever, but you haven't played in a while. And it's truly wonderful. But then you see, even in new media like Miles Morales, you see him walk up to his record collection and he's going through classic records. Cool. Right?
There is this the vinyl you want to put on to set the mood. Yeah.
I love it. Well, you know what? This conversation kind of fits with our first category, which is the best remake or remaster from 2020. Let's take a look at the nominees. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, developed by Vicarious Visions and Beanox, published by Activision. Final Fantasy VII Remake, developed and published by Square Enix, directed by Tetsuya Nomura, Naoki Hamaguchi, and Motomu Toriyama. Demon's Souls, developed by Bluepoint Games, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, and directed by Gavin Moore after original direction by Hidetaka Miyazaki. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, developed by Monolith Soft, and published by Nintendo. Game directed by Ko Kojima and Genki Yokota. Super Mario 3D All-Stars, developed and published by Nintendo. Produced by Kenta Motokura. There is no wrong answer in this category. This is an incredibly strong category, as Daniel C. says. Damn, this is a strong category.
Right?
Did you happen to get your hands on all of those or most of those?
Most of them, yeah. I didn't play a Xenoblade.
Right.
I think that's the one exception there. Yeah, I dabbled in a couple of the others, and I went hardcore into a couple of the others. So I'm familiar with the category.
Well, let's talk about Xenoblade Chronicles for a little bit. I think that might be one of the most satisfying for the fans of that franchise because it was a Wii game. So it's been a long time since people were able to play that massive experience, which almost felt too large for the Wii. And I remember reviewing it back in the day and digging the creative choices, but all of the quality of life improvements in the Switch version really were welcome. I did feel like the combat didn't satisfy me as much. Like I was looking at menus a lot more. I got a lot of notes on my review that people were saying that becomes second nature the more and more that you play it, but it felt a little bit, how you play an MMORPG and you're looking at the status bars when you get into combat, you're trying to, like, you're just looking down, waiting to press the button, the right combat kind of thing, and you're waiting for refills. But beautiful crafted experience. Really, really nice. I know you love Demon's Souls.
Demon's Souls. I'm not a Souls guy, but I really got into Bloodborne. Like that was my first kind of Souls game experience, and I got almost to the end before I just had to tap out on a boss I couldn't beat. So I didn't really have a lot invested in Demon's Souls. So I thought I'll just dabble in it. It's one of the PS5 launch titles. It looks amazing. I'm gonna try it out, and it sucked me in, kind of the way the Bloodborne did.
Yes.
But partly because it looks so freaking amazing. Like
yes.
I like that in Final Fantasy VII. I feel like I've taken the old experience, and Final Fantasy VII has kind of put a completely new spin on an old experience, whereas Demon's Souls is a little more in line with what we played before. But both of those games just blew me away because they were such beautiful but kind of thoughtful, faithful remakes or redos of the old games.
Yeah, you could tell that Sony invested in the right partner in Bluepoint, but also with an intention to, not just sort of meet expectations, but far exceed them, to bring new people into the boat. And now, presumably, like they're going to have their own Souls category,
right?
And
exactly.
it's a wonderful introduction. It's also, I think, the great onboard game for those difficult type of roguelikes as well. Like this is a good starting point, and it's interesting that it's a launch title with the PlayStation, and honestly, one of the strongest games out of first party or third party PlayStation 5, launch. And you also qualify it as an exclusive with all of the fidelity improvements and stuff that are in there too. It's incredible. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think, is the one that a lot of people would say that is the strongest in this category. Is that what you would hold to?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably people out there who I know I've done a lot with this game. I've played this game a lot and gone into the past of Final Fantasy a lot. And I think there are a lot of people who had certain expectations from this game that maybe weren't met. They were hoping that there'd be more stuff in there. But I think just to take a game that played one way, a turn-based RPG, and flip it around into kind of more of an action-oriented experience while keeping everything that made the RPG great and keeping those characters and those locations and building out these locations and adding all this content. To me, that's kind of like the ideal remake. Like I didn't think they'd be able to do it well, and they did it pretty well enough that I think it's a great game, but there's definitely going to be room to see what they add to it for the second, third, fourth, however many chapters it's going to take to tell the whole Final Fantasy VII saga.
Yes.
I don't know, this is going to be like 4 or 5 chapters because you barely get like when the Final Fantasy VII remake ends, you're about 3-4 hours, I think 6 hours tops into the original Final Fantasy. So it's going to be like an epic multi-game, possibly multi-generational experience, a console generation experience.
You know, I mean, that says something about the amount of discs that came with Final Fantasy VII, but also when you play the game, the original, when you play the game, it feels like what the cut sequences were alluding to in your imagination back then. And it's kind of like what they wanted to do with the game, but then they had to pare it down to make it kind of run on a PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And it ran well, and it's become the synonymous game that the franchise is known for, even Square Enix is kind of known for. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they have kind of ripped open a universe, you know, in the confines of this one singular product, but there is more to mine. And I mean, I came away... and I have to be honest, like when I reviewed the original, it didn't blow me away. I was more of a fan of the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy game than I was on the PlayStation 1. But I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. What did you think of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection?
I think it's a great idea. I would love to see Nintendo do a little more of this, kind of go back and revisit, update their older games. Mm-hmm. I didn't play a ton of it because I literally have those, you know, I have Mario 64 on my N64 right in the cabinet over there. And Sunshine is part of that collection, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Marissa Roberto's favorite.
It's a great game. I love that game too.
I don't share M-Rob's love for Sunshine. So I haven't dove back into that yet. It's one I will revisit, mainly because she just won't stop talking about it. But I'd like to see Nintendo. Like Nintendo's got the richest back catalog of anyone. And
it's weird that Galaxy 2 isn't on there, because Galaxy 1, the up-res of it is unbelievable. It's so beautiful.
Well, I mean, maybe they're saving it for the next one, right? Like Nintendo could go back and do this to all their games and release them 2 or 3 at a time. I think people would probably happily lay down money for it. And you know, it's nice to see these games back collected. And like, as much as I talk about loving my physical consoles and stuff, it's cool to have a collection of games that span several consoles on one device in the Switch.
Yes.
You know, 3 of the greats of the series. Or 2 greats and Mario Sunshine. Yeah.
You know, I'm wondering what everybody thinks should be the winner in this category. I think this is one of the toughest out of all of the categories in the whole Rocket and Rayguns this year.
I feel like we're missing one still. It's one we haven't talked about yet.
We are, and it's our winner. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. And I mean, I think it is, you know, because I got to decide on all this stuff and put the graphics and stuff together. But do you agree with me, or would you choose a different game?
You know, from what I've played, and I've done more watching actually than playing, because I sort of came at Tony Hawk at a weird time. I sort of came into Tony Hawk 2. I don't think I ever played a lot of Tony Hawk 1.
Okay.
And then I played the subsequent games after that. So I don't have the same kind of super nostalgic connection to the game, and especially the soundtrack that a lot of my peers do.
Right.
I think they did a fantastic job. The controls are beautiful. The visuals are updated while still being completely familiar. Like all the locations, all the levels are familiar, and the way you played those levels, that's burned into your brain from however 20 odd years ago, whatever it was, it's all there. But for me, I would rather reward a game that took a little more of a chance, like Final Fantasy VII Remake did. Yep. Or if we're going to talk about games that are kind of up-res, then kind of Demon Souls, I think, did the better job of taking an old thing and revisiting it. But you can't deny the nostalgia that Tony Hawk brings, right?
Well, the other thing that
impossible to disconnect from that.
Yeah, and it was hard. I was going around those 3 games. But the thing that really sold it for me for Tony Hawk is that it has all of that nostalgia and all of that polish. It even aged up the boarders, who are all still skateboarding, which I thought was fantastic. But all of those great tunes. But then it's also incredibly easy and fun to play for everyone. It's incredibly accessible, and it's such a great love letter to a time and a specific, you know, genre of game that changed the world. Like, it became a phenomenon. It changed Tony Hawk's world. It made skateboarding, you know, instantly more valuable in the eyes of many, many millions of people, and more important, turned a lot of people into skateboarders. And I feel like the rejuvenation of this specific brand and these specific games is kind of doing that again. And I just love the game. And Demon Souls is exquisite, but I don't know if it's the game that everyone will find their way to.
That's what I was going to say. Demon
Yeah.
Souls and even Final Fantasy VII Remake to an extent are not the most accessible games. You can't
Yes.
just plop somebody who's new to gaming down in front of Demon Souls and expect them to succeed, right?
Yeah.
But with Tony Hawk, you're absolutely right. It's a game that young and old can play and have been playing. Everybody's nuts for it. Like little kids are nuts for it, and old timers like you and me who played the old games were nuts for it. So that's something pretty special.
And we've been hearing a lot about it throughout the week with the gaming memories, and there's been some really profound and sweet stories related to the connection to Tony Hawk, and it's just such a great story, and Activision didn't tarnish it by putting in all kinds of microtransactions or any of that other stuff. It's just like a full-on beautiful gift to games in 2020. There's not a lot of extra thought around it. Like you don't have to. It's not like such a high-minded concept that you have to try to grapple with why it exists. It just does exist, and it's an amazing game. But we have a lot more memories to get into, and why don't we take a look back at 2020 with some of our friends?
A positive memory in 2020 from a game that was published is definitely Bugsnax, which I am obviously biased because I worked on marketing and PR for it. However, being able to work with the team and having this absolutely exciting PS5 launch title to work on has been the best distraction during this weird year. I think I will be eternally grateful that the teams allowed me and my team to be a part of this release. And obviously we love all the projects that we work on, but this PS5 day one title has been a really wild ride, and so we were really excited, and that brought me a lot of joy in 2020.
2020 has been a rough year for many of us, but the one thing I definitely appreciate about it is the fact that we had games in 2020. A lot of people don't realize that many developers had to adjust to a work from home situation, which was incredibly difficult when you have to basically interact with different teams in order to ensure a quality gaming experience, and lo and behold, they did it. We had a lot of fantastic games in 2020, so I salute all the developers who essentially busted their butts. Thank you so much for making 2020 a whole lot easier.
Video games with crossplay, thank you for uniting all of us and allowing us the ability to have a fun social outlet to talk to people on Xbox or on PlayStation or on PC. For me specifically, if I didn't play Modern Warfare crossplay with all of my friends almost every single night to help de-stress, I might not have actually heard their voices for almost a year.
Marvel's Avengers has had its fair share of negative headlines, to say the least, but I'm really thankful for that game for giving me the opportunity to catch up with a dear friend. 2020 has been a year where we really had to relearn how to interact with one another, and I was just happen to do so while role-playing as one of the Earth's mightiest heroes. So thank you to Square, Crystal, and Eidos for that game, and Jonathan, hopefully we'll see each other when all this is over.
Got this note from XGR Extensive Game Reviews. What a year! Games have been an important beacon, permitting people to come together when in-person gatherings have become perilous. This year, they have allowed me to connect with family, friends, and even strangers. My immediate family has been stretched across Canada, and it would be impossible for all of us to gather even if conditions were ideal to do so. Animal Crossing kept me in touch with my sister, Monster Hunter World with my brother. Video games just have this innate ability to bridge distant shores in a fun, interactive medium. While this year has been tough, it has been immensely less so thanks to developers and publishers pouring thousands of hours into impactful experiences. A big shout out and thank you to everyone who makes these adventures possible. You are loved and very much appreciated.
One good memory that happened this year was when I played Sonic Knuckles Raygun Transform with friends online. And to think that a game from 2012 can still produce fantastic memories all the way in 2020.
My favorite moments in 2020 have been the ability to kind of take these massive, beautiful games and complete them. Games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, amazing nostalgia there. The Last of Us 2, what a game. Divinity Original Sin 2, I completed a 80-hour game with a friend on co-op. It was such a moment.
In 2020, my son and I haven't been able to see nearly as much of each other as usual, so we've resorted to some very cool online games, particularly VR. One being Phasmophobia, which is great. We play with other members of my family as well. And the second being 11 Table Tennis, which is an incredible game with cross-play between Steam, which my son uses, and the Quest 2, which I have.
So this is a weird one. This is kind of related to the production of DF Retro, but Final Fight. I did a gigantic retrospective on that game that was over an hour long. And the reason it's so memorable is because I got so many people involved. My friend Audie, Corey and Mark from My Life in Gaming, my friend Sebastian here in town, Matt McMuscles even was in there. You know, all of us just kind of like got together and just like talking Final Fight. We were coming up with crazy sequences like reenacting the Sega CD intro for the intro of the video, just throwing all this stuff at the wall. And it was just that point when things were kind of not great with COVID and everything, but here we were just like making this video and just like jamming all this stuff in there. It's like, we got to get every version in there, we got to do all this, and it's like, you know, we're just it felt like this perfect synergy of everybody's just working together. And you know, I usually do my videos completely alone, so like having help from others at the time, just working together on something, was like really, really fun and memorable to me. So that was a really great video to work on.
Oh man, those videos, they fill my heart. It's so cool to see all of your faces, and I'm so grateful for all of your contributions. I'm such a huge fan of John Linneman and the Digital Foundry guys as well, and I've got a podcast coming up with him and with GameSack very soon. But it's amazing to see everything. And Robert Lino, your call out for Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed. I think I got every name in that title. It totally took me back. I'm like, oh my God, I want that as a remake for next gen, you know? I mean, we just finished the remaster and remakes of all of this stuff. It's interesting. It all swirls, right? And there's been a lot of comments actually for the 2020 stuff that has nothing to do with 2020. It's games that have been around for a long time that people have used this year to either catch up on, or, you know, they filter into their playlist and they've been playing. It's important.
It is. I mean, I really agree with what I think Andrew and somebody else was saying in there, that games are kind of the way we connected with each other just on a personal level this year. Like, I know my buddies and I, who I would have game nights with every couple of months, we haven't seen each other since, you know, this year. I don't think we've seen each other, but we play Rocket League together, and we talk and we catch up over Rocket League. So, you know, we're there flying our cars through the air and just talking about, you know, what we did that week or how things are going or how the families are. And I think that's a lot of people, as we saw in the video, a lot of people, and we've seen all week, a lot of people are really kind of using games, multiplayer games, online games, as a way to kind of stay in touch, where we would have done it with visits or even phone calls before. And that's good to see. You know, it's good to see games kind of keeping people together through these times.
And it's, you know, you've been covering games from a, you know, mass media kind of position for a long time, fighting the good fight to get editors and stuff to say, okay, you can write that story and we'll print it in the paper. Same with me with the television shows. And you know, it's good to see the world waking up this year. You know, but the other side of it, though, and we got into it a little bit when we talked about Cyberpunk for the RPG award, is that there is a lot of hate out there, and some of it justified for sure. I mean, there's been some subterfuge and some shenanigans on the way that people were led into that world, and given information about how the game was running on different machines. But the other side of it is this real ugly kind of attack kind of space that everybody's got around developers and the game industry. And I was going to say, I mean, games have problems. Cyberpunk has a lot of problems. And I don't think it's a bad thing to be upset about the way that the game was reviewed. Or that the constraints that were put on the reviewers. I don't think it's bad to be upset about what the game is versus what it said it was going to be. But you don't take that. You don't attack the developers. You don't attack the studio. You don't attack the people who are in the trenches doing the crunch. Sacrificing their family lives to try and get this thing out the door. Like, every time I hear, I know they're isolated incidents. I know that most gamers are, rational, empathetic reasonable
people. Yeah. But I just hate hearing the stories about how, developers getting death threats or personal attacks for this kind of stuff. Like, come on.
And I tweeted it out last night, and I almost hesitated, but you and I have been gaming since the 80s. and the game industry has always lied. They've always like painted a rosier picture in their advertising and their box art and their screenshots and their on stage demos and the slivers that you get. It's always been that. Now we're getting closer to what is projected as a story of what this game is going to actually be realized. At least we think it is. 5 years from now, we're going to look back at this time and think this is a joke, and look at how primitive everything. Well, that's the nature of the video game industry.
Yeah,
and
that's okay. I like that.
Me too. And that's what keeps it exciting every single day, right? There's no predictability around this industry. But the thing that people kind of have to reconcile with is every console generation, every time there's a cross-generation game, it always looks crappier on the generation before. I mean, that's all the developers lean in.
Yeah, typically not this bad.
No.
Usually the game's at least playable on the previous generation of hardware. And I think, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Cyberpunk because it's not in this category of awards. Also, I'm the guy who actually bought the collector's edition.
Yes.
Right? There's the V on the motorbike. So I was invested in this game like for years. Since announcement, I've been invested in this game.
Yeah.
And I think that it just needed another year, and for all the time they had with it, they really needed another year. I think they had to push it out the door to satisfy investors, satisfy financial targets. I wish it could have been like a Nintendo game where it's ready when it's ready, and we will polish it to a sheen and then release it. Or it's not financially realistic, but I wish they could have just said, look, this is not going to be a last gen game. We can't make a run on last gen. It's going to be a PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC game. That would have destroyed the sales. It would have not been, they would have lost tons of money if they'd gone that way. But I kind of wish in my heart they had been able to kind of commit to the next gen platforms and not try to hobble it with 7-year-old hardware.
Yeah, do you think that that's a problem with the way that games get made now? Like they're not entertainments that we just finish and move on from. They're like every game it feels like you're going to live here for a while, and we're just going to keep improving it based on the way you play it. I mean, it feels like they're never done anymore.
Yeah, I don't mind I don't mind when a game comes out and it's good or pretty good, and then they improve it or add on to it.
Sure. And
a game like Cyberpunk, I really respect because it's not a games as a service game. It's not something that's trying to give us microtransactions. It's not something you got to log on to every week to complete objectives. It's a world that's there for you to explore at your pace and do what you want to do in it. And I love big open world games, but I mean, when you look at stuff like Horizon, which we're going to talk about on PC, and other big open world games that really did it right, it's a little heartbreaking to see that Cyberpunk has launched in such a shaky form. I know this has been a part of the discussion since launch. I hope they kind of do like a No Man's Sky and what
which is so
Sean
weird,
guys
right?
did.
Like Sean Murray and his team of 9 people or whatever making this game over multiple years.
I mean, respect to those guys to say, we realize this game that we put out is not what you expected and not what we wanted. Let's spend 2 years plus fixing it up. And now when you play the game No Man's Sky now, it is a completely different experience from it was launched. I don't know if CDPR can do that. I don't know if they have the plan to do that or the resources or the wherewithal to do that. But they're definitely committed to releasing major patches that will fix some of these issues.
And like they're so freaking talented, and the game is cool. Are you playing it on the PC or are you playing it on consoles?
I'm playing it on a very, very high end PC that I just built. So I'm having the best of possible experiences with it. Like there's still tons of bugs in the game, but I'm having no performance problems because I am playing on kind of like the ultra settings target platform.
Yes.
So I mean, my heart goes out to the vast majority of people who have to play it on PS4 or Xbox One. Like that's just, there are millions and millions of those consoles out there, and a lot of people are playing on these platforms, and they're not getting the experience that they thought they would get out of this game.
It's awful. I'm playing it on the PS5. And I have it installed on a PS4, but I haven't had time to look at it on a PS4. And I also am playing it on the PC, but not enough that I could have said, okay, let's stick it in the PC category. And it's also so it's controversial, but there's like by their own admission, it's not done either. Like they're not done, and people are finding new ways to show us on Twitter how they're not done. Every time I log in, it's
a little entertaining, I gotta say.
It's if it weren't so tragic, it would be entertaining. But I really do hope that people stop throwing hate around about this stuff. These people are scrambling and trying to figure it out, and they've invested money, but they've invested their passion and their creativity into this. And I don't know. I mean, CD Projekt Red and what they've done with the Witcher franchise already, and what they've already shown us with the beta of Cyberpunk 2077.
Beta alpha, yeah. The early access release of Cyberpunk, yeah.
They deserve our respect and appreciation that they can get to there. Yeah. Now it's up to them to do that, and we'll find out in 2021 if they can. All right. Well, let's move on. It's clearly one of the big topics of the day, and this is not a news week of EP. This is a week of getting the awards out there. But we've got to talk about this because it's so, prominent in our business right now. Everybody's doing it. I know you're talking about it, with friends across the community, and I am too. But let's move on, and we're going to talk about the best action adventure game of 2020. Here are the nominees.
What a stacked category.
I know. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, developed by Insomniac Games, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Creative director was Brian Horton. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, developed by Moon Studios, published by Xbox Game Studios, directed by Thomas Mahler. Ghost of Tsushima, developed by Sucker Punch, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, game directed by Nate Fox and Jason Connell. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, developed by Toys for Bob, published by Activision, and game directed by Dan Neal. The Last of Us Part 2, developed by Naughty Dog, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, game directed by Neil Druckmann and Hallie Gross. VR Grid piped up with Half-Life Alyx with a question mark, and I guess we could have put Half-Life Alyx in there for sure. I have to admit, I love Crash Bandicoot 4. I think it's a really lovely game, and it's incredibly challenging and difficult. Too challenging, I felt, to plop it into the family category. I don't know if you played this game, but it is...
That's the only game on the list I haven't played.
It's great. It's beautiful, and it's loaded with cool content, but holy crap, it tests you. I had all kinds of swears when I was playing that thing. It is a very good game, but I don't think it kind of lives up to the super high points. I put The Last of Us Part 2 in to this category, and it is an exceptionally fun game mechanically to play, but it's not a game that sort of projects fun. Like, you have fun in spite of what is going on, right?
It's the characters in this game are not having a good time.
No, and
nobody's having a good time.
You feel like such an asshole for doing all of the carnage that you're doing in the game, but it's fun. It's such a weird thing. You feel that guilt.
It's harrowing. Yeah. It's exciting, and it's gripping, and it's engaging. I don't know if I did it fun. There were times when I had fun. I'm killing bad guys.
Yeah.
I'm having fun. When I'm getting attacked by clickers or whatever, or bandits or whatever, and shooting them in the head. That's a lot of fun. But there's a lot of hard stuff in that game too. A lot of times when I didn't want to have to do things that I had to do. But I mean, that game is all about storytelling. And I think they told the story they wanted to tell through gameplay. And I think they did a masterful job of it.
It really makes you kind of, think about what the hero's journey in a world like that actually means, right? Like and you as the conduit and the person that ultimately decides a lot of that stuff. It's not a choose your own path or anything like that, but you live through it with these characters, and so I think mechanically it's such a weird juxtaposition from what you're doing to the enemies on screen, because they're screaming in pain, and and I felt this with the first game, but this is even accentuated in this one because it's such a deep revenge thriller. But you carry that weight, that guilt, as you're doing these things that are crazy cool, to pull off, like these mechanics and these crazy violent pieces that you can pull off in this game.
I love the fact that you think Abby is the villain through the first part of the game, and then when it comes time after you've sort of played each character's experience, if it came down to actually being able to decide, and I know that this is not the Naughty Dog way. You don't get to make the really big story decisions in Naughty Dog games. They're planned out. But if it had come down to the player being able to decide out of Ellie and Abby who lives, I honestly don't know which way I would have gone. I went through a whole first game with Ellie and a good chunk of this game, but then I could completely see Abby's point of view and where she was coming from and what her motivations were.
Yes.
And I saw that she had her own people and her own family, and she was.
This is spoilery.
A good person.
By the way.
So I'm trying to be as vague as possible.
I know.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about it anymore. Anyway, I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go with that. Yeah. So I like the fact that I wasn't sure who was the good guy and who was the bad guy. Everybody was shades of gray.
Yeah, and Ori and the Will and the Wisps, I think, is a very traditional Metroidvania.
I'm really glad you put that in there.
It's a beautiful, precise game. Yeah.
Even though it's on Game Pass, and the fact that it is on Game Pass is great. I don't understand the Game Pass business model. I got to tell you, you pay like $8, $9, whatever bucks a month, and you get all these amazing games. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm glad it exists.
Well, it's really the best. It's the best deal in games.
It is the best deal in games.
It is best deal in games of all time. There's never been anything like this. You're paying one. I mean, it's basically like paying for 2 games, but you get all these games, and they just keep changing the plan. It's insane.
Yeah.
Microsoft is going to keep growing that business and keep adding to it, and then they'll charge more and they'll make more because they'll have the install base, just like what we're seeing with Disney and with Netflix. But it's incredible, and I don't know what the other guys are waiting for, because I mean, maybe it's a risk and it's a service risk or something like that. Microsoft has the infrastructure to eat some of that cost, but also the internet infrastructure. But the other guys should be doing the same damn thing,
I guess, but I mean, there's games coming out on Game Pass I would have paid full price for, happily, and it works out to I'm paying less per year for Game Pass, getting those games on Game Pass, than I would if I just bought 2 games at full price. So it's a crazy deal. I don't understand how the economics of it work. I know that as they scale up and get more subscribers,
I'll tell you how it works. Most people aren't you or me. Most people aren't our EPN viewers and the people that are tuned into this. Most people buy 1 or 2 games in a year, and that's who Microsoft is trying to cart. That's what Stadia's whole business is all about. That's the whole thing. And what they're missing is that Game Pass, connection as well, right? That's what the Amazon service is going to be about, because you're going to get a library with your monthly charge. Yeah. Most people don't have the wherewithal or the time or the interest or the investment to go whole hog with all. That's why it's been weird, because I know that, because I hear that all the time, and I know you do too from your editors at the paper. It's like most people don't want to go into this deep dive with all of this stuff.
And I get it. And I'm glad that, like I said, Ori and Will of the Wisps is on Game Pass, because it's not a game I would have bought. It's not a game I would have paid full price for, but it's a game I'm really happy to be able to experience on Game Pass, because it looks like nothing else out there, and it plays so well. It's like one of the best 2D platformers of this generation or last or whatever. Yeah. And certainly one of the, if not the best looking. Like visually, it is just mind blowing.
It's like a painting that you can play. Yeah, it's stunning. It's so gorgeous. Similarly, but in a different direction, is like the comic book come to life with Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I think is maybe one of the most important games of the year. Just the idea that this character that is so representational of a culture that we don't see in any media. Like the movie blew my freaking mind. It's one of my favorite superhero movies, let alone an animated feature. It was incredible. But now I love this character. I'm obsessed with the world. And to play in that space so soon after what Insomniac did with Spider-Man in 2018, and so marvelously, no pun intended, and then they add the 60 frames per second after to the or ray tracing to 60 frames per second after they shipped as a nice little bonus surprise. It's a staggering accomplishment, man.
Yeah, I didn't expect that game to feel as complete as it does. I mean, it is I think I did a lot of the side quests and stuff. I think I got about 15 hours out of it.
Yep.
I know you can blow through the story in half that if you really want to. I don't know why you would want to, but
Yep.
I didn't expect it to feel as complete. I expected it to feel more DLC-ish, but it is such a self-contained story about
Yes.
Miles and his family and his friends and how those people connect into his superhero life and his community, and the representation in that game, like you were saying, is
The
fantastic.
awesome music.
Oh, and the great music.
Music
yeah.
is so
Yeah.
good, man. You feel it in your bones when you're swinging around. You know, you feel like a totally different character as well, which is incredible.
That's exactly it. It's not Peter Parker Spider-Man in a new suit or a skinnier model. Miles as Spider-Man plays like a different kind of Spider-Man. And
Yes.
the addition of the Venom powers made the combat different enough to feel fresh, but not so different that it didn't that it felt like a completely different game. Like I went in there, I still had the Spider-Man muscle memory on how to fight, but then you throw in some of these Venom powers and the electricity powers, and it just added a nice new little layer onto a familiar experience. So yeah, I you know what, I'm glad that it wasn't a full-blown game.
Dude, I'll tell you something, man. I would prefer
I don't need games
Insomniac
that
makes
long.
one of these every year. I mean, I think we get comics every month with stories with these characters that we love. I don't want to wait, 2, 3, 4 years for these big mega games. I mean, they're great if they do. Maybe they can do both. But I love this idea of a 6-hour story with lots of side stuff, because it's going to be New York. That's where Spider-Man does his stuff. That's where he swings. The Spider-Men, the Spider-Verse is there. So, I would love Insomniac to come back next year with Spider-Gwen. I always forget Ghost Spider or some Spider-Ghost. You guys will tell me what her superhero name is. But, the verse is amazing. These guys clearly know what they're doing with this franchise. I love it, and truthfully, this is the game I'm likely going to play more than any other game in 2020. And the other,
You're on your third playthrough.
I'm on my third,
that?
yes, easily, and I'm going to platinum the hell out of it. It's so addictive. Like, that's my candy, and I'm playing the remastered Spider-Man over the holiday as well.
Yeah.
The original. I love it, and what's so incredible about these games for me is there have been lots of incredible Spider-Man games, but these are so good. They kind of reset it all. It's like a new level. It's a new floor, and an expectation for how superhero games are going to fare from now on, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before we go into what I think is going to be the last game on the list, I find it really interesting. We had 2 Ubisoft open world action adventure games this year, and neither one made the cut.
I put Assassin's Creed into RPG. Because I feel
I was wondering that.
Yeah, they've been edging in that direction, and Immortals is terrific as well. And I thought Watch Dogs Legion was really good, but I don't know. I had more fun with Crash Bandicoot. That's tighter kind of confines, and I always thought that Ori was a masterpiece. And so my list it was Watch Dogs. I was gonna go in there, and there was something about it that I'm not fully invested in. I think part of it is the sandbox quality of Watch Dogs, the fact that it's all disposable and you've got all these characters and you just move on. So as cool a hook as that is, there's a little bit of a story disconnect because you don't really care about them.
I understand. I like the experiment that Legion does with being able to recruit any character in the open world and play as those characters.
Yeah.
But I was a huge fan of Watch Dogs 2, and I really loved Marcus as a character, and I really loved San Francisco as a setting, and I thought they did a great job of world building, but also building out Marcus and DedSec, and you really got to know these predefined group of characters. Whereas in Legion, there's some of the same interaction, but they're all different kind of skins. Whoever you kind of have put in those, in your clubhouse, are having these interactions. So it's not the same kind of bespoke storytelling that you got in Watch Dogs 2.
No,
but I do appreciate what they did try with that game.
I like Watch Dogs as a toy. It's just fun, you just goof around on missions. You end up doing a lot of the same things over and over again with the drones and the hacking and all the core sort of things that you do. But it's really polished. My favorite thing about the game is how beautiful they made London. It's just it's an escape to London. But Assassin's Creed, I know it's an action adventure in its core, but they've just
it is leaning into RPG.
Yeah,
they've really with Origins and Odyssey and now Valhalla, they've really kind of leaned into the RPG.
It felt closer to The Witcher than Assassin's Creed 2. You know. So that does leave one, and I think you guys all know who our winner is. It is Sucker Punch's magnificent Ghost of Tsushima. Just a spellbinding game that took my breath away. I don't know how you felt about it. I mean, it's a stunning game.
The Assassin's Creed Samurai game that we've been asking for years.
Well, now they can't make that. And when I interviewed those Sucker Punch guys, they were so nervous that they were going to drop that, because there's been hints that the Assassin's Creed Samurai was going to come, and it didn't. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if behind the scenes there were discussions, like Sony leaned in or whispered. I don't know, but that opening was there, and I can't believe I like Ghost more than Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I can't believe it. This is because Black Flag is one of my favorite of these big open world things. It's the same team that made Black Flag and Origins. Incredibly talented, fantastic. And Valhalla is great, but Ghost of Tsushima is it's just another level. And again, totally replayable and so much, it's fun. It's beautiful, but it's fun. It's just fun to play.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I feel like Assassin's Creed is getting too big almost. I've barely scratched the surface of Valhalla because I just look at it and I say, this is too much. I don't have 80 hours to invest in this game. With Ghost, it's a world we haven't really played a lot in. We haven't really seen a really kind of devoted samurai game that really taps into the samurai film culture and really gets into the roots of that part of Japan. And I think Sucker Punch did such a good job of it. So the setting is part of the hook for me, but then it's Sucker Punch. So that this, the action is going to be incredible, and the various systems that they've worked into the game. It honestly did not hook me at first because I tried playing Ghost the way I play a lot of games, which is just to go chase icons on the map. And that's not the best way to play this game. The best way is to follow the story missions and get to know the characters and get into kind of why you're in this world and what your motivations are. Leave the fox chasing and the naked hot tubs and the haiku. Do those when you stumble across them. Don't chase after them the way I was. I just this kind of OCD way of approaching games where I've got to clear all the side missions off the map for the main missions.
Like that's the towers in the Assassin's Creed games. That's what I do. So I know where everything is.
It's not the best way to play this game. This game is better served by following the story and gaining the abilities you get from the story, which really open up the world more.
Well, and honestly, I think this is a game that it has a great story and it has great characters and a great setting and all of that is beautifully represented. But what really comes through is your connection to the mechanics and the character and feeling the power of this character and how he can go up against an army of enemies and come out of it not always unscathed, but can handle himself just fine, and it took me a long time to kind of, because I came off of Last of Us Part 2. And I was like, I don't even want to deal with another video game right now. I don't want to go through anything, and nothing is going to get to that emotional height that I just went through. And I wasn't feeling those emotions when I started Ghost of Tsushima. It was weird to go finish the game and then Sony sends the code for reviewing Ghost. I'm like, holy crap! Right. Okay, here we go. And you think it's Assassins at first. You're right, and then I don't know. So a switch flipped for me, and it became just, second nature and fun, and the fact that you can just fly through this world so fast and fluidly. Even you're on your horse and you're picking up flowers and things like that. There's nothing that gets in the way of the enjoyment of the game.
Right.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
So
that's our winner. Congratulations, Sucker Punch. You win the action adventure of 2020. But this has been a year filled with lots of different cool games and lots of memories. Let's take a look at some of them right now.
I mean, my positive video game memory of 2020 is a weird one, I'm sure, but it's Marvel's Avengers. I know so many people want to drag this one through the dirt, but I love this game. I had a great time with it, and at the core of that is my friend group. I had a friend out on the East Coast who got as obsessed with Marvel's Avengers as I did, and we went from, texting every so often, maybe, once a month, to playing this game nightly, really being involved with what was going on in each other's lives, and reconnecting in a way that is so special in 2020 when we can't be around each other locally. Marvel's Avengers was something that I was able to get together with a whole bunch of different friends and celebrate something on the internet.
This year's been hard for all of us, but looking back on some of the best gaming memories, given me the opportunity to stay home, get my game on, finally finish some of the games that have been sitting on my shelf for quite a while. It's been a lot of fun. Also this year, we got to see Vic's Basement, actually from Vic's Basement live. We saw the growth of the community, some of the biggest gaming moments, and number one for me is when Victor Lucas and Tommy Tallarico reunited live. For us on EP, that was a very special moment. Took me back to a lot of good memories. So on that, take care everybody, play forever.
My favorite video game memory of 2020 has to do with Animal Crossing. I pre-ordered it, was eagerly awaiting it, and then COVID hit. So we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get it because there was a lockdown going to be happening in Ontario. But it turned out the store where I pre-ordered was going to do a midnight release outside. So my husband and I, we drove there in the dead of night, midnight. It's raining out, and we meet in this strip mall parking lot with 50 to 100 other rabid Animal Crossing fans. And at the stroke of midnight, they start coming out with the games and distributing them. And there was such a feeling of community that night that we can't talk, but we're all sharing in this experience. And that really is, to me, what typifies Animal Crossing. And that is why, with all due respect to the Video Game Awards, Animal Crossing is my game of the year.
Hey guys, I have been absolutely swamped this year working on the NES Omnibus, and I've been too busy to play much that came out in 2020. But when I was sent The Adventures of Chris for the Switch, an indie title, and they told me it was a 90s style platformer, I had to check it out. Big fan of retro gaming from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and Adventures of Chris has that great 90s platformer feel. It's got wind physics and platforming and shooting, and it's difficult, and there's enemies everywhere, and there's a lot of different environmental stages. It really harkens back to gaming on my Super Nintendo in the 90s. And it also helped just in this crazy time of 2020 just to go old school, to kick it old school on a new console. A lot of fun.
No game has made me laugh so hard as Fall Guys, especially being knocked all over the place trying to grab another jelly bean's tail.
Got this note from Taz. For me, relating to gaming, the most positive and fun thing this year has to be the live chats. Not only has COVID made things difficult, but I have also been recovering from multiple injuries this year. The chat from both other E-Peeps and Vic, as well as the post-party happening in the EP Discord server, have helped me keep going throughout the year.
When I think of 2020 and any moments that stand out for me is very early into the pandemic, a lot of us couldn't meet to play games together. And the first game, Level 857, was actually able to meet up and play a game together was Streets of Rage 4. We're all very big fans of the beat-em-up genre, very big fans of Streets of Rage from 1, 2, and 3. And the fact that they actually made it 4 players got us very excited. And we actually had to wait a while before we could meet in person during this and actually play the game. And when we finally played it, it was magic. It was such a great moment, and, the laughs were there, and the talking smack and all that good stuff while playing the game, and we had so much fun with it, and we still play it to this day.
What video games provided for me in 2020 was a great way of chatting and having fun with friends in different gaming communities and not to feel alone. There were also many games that really kept me hooked on and became a great distraction from all of the worries and stress. And one of my greatest moments was playing Final Fantasy VII Remake and seeing how it's surprisingly different and improved from the original, and how good of a feeling the music in it had.
Like many people, most I would say, I found the year 2020 to be a very odd year, one that I often felt the need to escape from. And I did this by escaping into an older game, one that I hadn't really had the opportunity to do a proper, true deep dive into. In fact, I escaped all the way back to 1899, because the game I was incessantly playing for the first few months of 2020 was Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, of course, it's an amazing game, and a lot of people have written a lot of stuff about it. But what really drew me was the weird stuff. In fact, my version of Arthur Morgan essentially became a sort of Old West paranormal investigator, really exploring the spookier and odder sections of the game. But no matter how weird the stuff I encountered in the Old West was, whether it was a robot or aliens or an abandoned flesh golem laboratory, it was never quite as weird as 2020 itself. So thank you, Red Dead Redemption 2, for helping me escape the weirdness with your weirdness.
Well, that year sucked. I think it's pretty safe to say that nobody wants to actually remember anything from 2020. That being said, I did have a couple pretty good memories that had to do with video games, and all of them had to do with playing games with my son. We spent an incredible amount of time together this year. He wasn't in school for most of the year, so we got to hang out a lot, and we got to play a lot of cool games. We played a lot of Minecraft, which I hadn't played in years, and it turns out still really good, still really fun, tons of new worlds, tons of add-on packs. It's still really awesome, and especially watching him kind of go from creative mode into survival mode and get better and gain confidence was really cool for me. I would say my number one gaming memory, however, was with a little bit more of a mature game, you might say, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake. Watching my son not only play that game, but sort of learn how to play that game. Like for me, it's muscle memory. We used to play that game and just your fingers know what to do, to jump, to grind, to kickflip into a manual. Watching him learn that and start to put it together, I swear, tears streaming down my face. Happy tears. There were a lot of bad tears in 2020, but those were happy tears. So thank you, video games. Thank you, Tony Hawk. Thank you, Minecraft. And thank you, Vic, for everything that you've done all year long, keeping us interested in games and just always being a bright spot. I love you and miss you, buddy.
I love and miss you too, Ben. This is it's a lot, man. I've been cutting all these things, so I'm watching all of this raw footage and putting it all together, and I am honored. I'm honored that so many of you contributed. There were a few that I wasn't able to put into the memories this year. This was a grand experiment, and boy, did people come through, and a lot of my friends across the industry came through, but I couldn't get to everybody. I'm sorry about that, but man, I wish I could make programming like this every day, because it's not necessarily about this freaking year. Let it be done. Let us get these damn vaccines injected. Let's start to return to normal. But
yes, please.
This has been a really amazing thing for me to work on and to be connected to so many people and friends like you, Steve. That I'm like asking for the favor to come and join me on the on these awards and
I'm like knocking stuff over trying to get to the yes. Yeah.
Well, it has been a wonderful way to celebrate this year. And honestly, I've said this before about the awards, like we're presenting some winners and talking about some stuff and pitting things against each other, but holy crap, game industry, did you deliver? Daniel C had the excellent comment, I think, during that memory there. It's like, imagine if we didn't have video games this year. Imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What the hell would we have done? We couldn't. They didn't even have movies, like
That's right.
we had some Netflix things and some shows and stuff, but like, what would we have done? Video games saved our butts this year, and that's what this award show is. It's a great big thank you. It's a thank you to you. It's a thank you to all of the people that work alongside Electric Playground and hustle to try to get their work out there and their content, and absolutely all the developers out there that entertain us. What a very necessary thing we've needed this year.
Yeah, this has been a bad year. It's been a bad year all around, but the good that has come out of this year is kind of reconnecting with people, connecting with our games as a form of entertainment and as a form of connection themselves. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, we could have been, I don't know, stuck at home without any way to talk to each other or without these worlds to disappear into. So I'm going to be really happy to put 2020 in the rear view. I'm going to be, 2021 is going to start off pretty rocky too, I'm sure, but hopefully by the middle or end of next year, things will gradually be getting back to normal and we will be able to see each other in person again. But, this has been a great alternative and to have this as I mean, I know you would have done this anyway, but this is to have this kind of excuse to get back together and to see people like Ben. It makes me want to cry tears of happiness seeing Ben's face.
I know.
And I'm lucky here in Toronto to have Scott Jones and Raju and Marissa all here.
And Sean's out
three
there
members
too.
of the old crew, and Sean, of course. Sean was a little further out of town now, so I don't get to see him as often. But having so many of the old crew here in Toronto has been great.
I'm jealous,
yeah.
man. I miss all of you
should
guys.
be.
I really am, you know, and I know that if we were in the same city, we would be collaborating a lot more than we do. But we have no excuse. This technology, I know how to stream now, so I'm going to be tracking you down.
Rick's learned how to stream, everybody.
Blade Blur, thank you for the super chat. Great job in 2020. I got to tell you, Daniel, it was pretty fantastic for me to write in your name key there and put in Toys for Bob. Blade Blur is a guy that has been an EP supporter for a long time. Helped, I think you put the Discord server together, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't have today. I'm not going to stop the show to pop that in there. But he joined the team at Toys for Bob and helped to build the game. And had to keep it under wraps for a while, but then he revealed it to our team here on EP and all the chat on EP, and it felt amazing. I mean, I love the game, but it felt amazing to also say, hey, I know this guy. He works at this company, and he's part of our EP fam, which is pretty rocking. Okay, we have one final award to dole out this evening. It's the contentious Best PC Game of 2020. Here are my nominees. I'm going to take all of the credit and all of the heat for this one. Desperados 3, developed by Me Games, published by THQ Nordic, and game directed by Dominic Abe. Microsoft Flight Simulator, developed by Osobo Studio, published by Xbox Game Studios, and game directed by David Dedane. Gears Tactics, developed by Splash Damage and the Coalition, published by Xbox Game Studios. Horizon Zero Dawn Complete, developed by Guerrilla Games, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, game directed by Matthias de Jong. Death Stranding, developed by Kojima Productions, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment and 505 Games, game directed by Hideo Kojima. All right, Steve, let's get into this. Desperados 3, did you have a chance to play this game?
Just a little dabble, But even though I've only dabbled, and I'm kind of chuffed to see it in there. I like that.
It's a cool game. Right?
Yeah, I like games like that, and it's not one I would have expected you to put on the list.
No,
but I think it's cool that it's there.
I'm clearly a bigger console player. I do have gaming PCs, and I play stuff on the PC. I didn't put any of the VR games in there. People are asking about Half-Life Alyx. Why isn't that in PC? Mm-hmm. It is arguably a PC game, but I put it into Best VR as a nominee in the VR experiences. But certainly that was an incredible achievement for PC gaming this year. I tried to choose games that... these are games that I actually touched and played. I didn't play everything that's out there. I just don't. I'm one dude. I can't play every freaking thing out there. But I also, tried to choose stuff that was kind of fresh on PC, like kind of like a fresh type of experience on PC, or in Microsoft Flight Simulator's case, something that kind of was born out of PC. I know that there's going to be a console port of that, but it feels very PC centric. Mm-hmm. And I could have chosen, something from the Total War series, or even Age 2 Definitive Edition, or whatever that's out there, or Age 3. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. First of all, I didn't have time to play all of that stuff. I know Crusader Kings 3 is pretty damn rocking as well. Haven't had time to touch it. So I did stuff that I was familiar with, and I have to say, when I checked out Horizon Zero Dawn and Death Stranding, man, was I happy that they were there. The fact that Sony's got their imprint and they're part of the gestation of these games, part of the these games coming to life, and they're on PC, that says something really wonderful to me. That seems like gates are opening, and more people are going to be able to play some of these exquisite experiences. And they run beautifully, at least on the PC that I have. I don't know if you checked them out. I don't know if you checked out Death Stranding or Horizon Zero Dawn.
I didn't, only because I platinumed Horizon Zero Dawn, and I played a lot of Death Stranding on PS4 as well. Yeah. So I didn't feel a need to check them out on PC, but I did follow the coverage of the release, and a lot of people saying Death Stranding ran amazingly on PC, and
it
do
runs
things on PC
incredible, and it takes
Yeah.
advantage of the DLSS technology that
Right,
NVIDIA's been working
right.
on. And I mean, I couldn't believe it because I've been running it on a an i7 Alienware M17 laptop, which is solid, but it looked like super kick-ass high-end. I mean, much better than what I had played through on PlayStation 4. And what I found with both of those games is that I booted them up to check them out, and I became incredibly addicted, and I couldn't stop playing them right away.
It's kind of a good game.
Yes.
It's kind of a good game when you go in and you're just like, I'm just going to play for a few minutes. I do that a lot when I'm covering games or writing about games, and I have to dip back into a game just to check something in the UI or check something character, and then it's like an hour later. Like I only meant to go back in and check one little fact, and it's an hour later because I just got sucked back into playing. That's a sign of a good game.
I loved both of those, and I'm trying to remember what the last one is, but I also wanted to check out the Gears Tactics, which I thought was. Did you play Gears Tactics?
I played a good chunk of it. Yeah, I like the XCOM turn-based strategy type games, and I'm a fan of the Gears universe, so I played a good chunk of it. It gets very difficult after a while.
Yes.
But
did you play it mouse and keyboard, or did you play a controller?
I actually played a controller.
Me too.
Now I think of it. Yeah.
I played it a controller on TV.
On PC. Yeah.
Like my laptop plugged into the TV. That's honestly, I have a very console-like experience, and I've said this before on the channel. Why I like gaming laptops is you can just take them with you, and you can have the screen when you want it, but you can plug it into a TV really nice and easily, and have like a Steam console in a way, right? So, and I knew that this was coming to Xbox, so I kind of wanted to see how it would play as an Xbox type experience, and it was really fun. It's a good fit, and it's beautiful. And honestly, Gears is always about strategy when you're getting into these conflicts. Anyways, even in the third-person shooter, so it just made a lot of sense this way. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they did a good job of translating the mechanics of a third-person action game into a turn-based strategy game. Like it's the stuff you would think to do in Gears is kind of there, and it's been turn-based-ified, like taking cover, flanking, and when to use grenades, and they did a great job of it. They did a great job, and it looks good too. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks amazing, and they introduced a whole bunch of new characters to the lore, which I'm sure are going to filter into previous or future Gears experiences. Weird that it didn't have multiplayer. I'm curious if anybody. I think it's probably on Game Pass as well right now. I'm wondering what the pickup is on the thing. And I'd love to hear what you think of Gears Tactics. Certainly, there are superior tactics games out there like XCOM that have had years to mature and kind of define that genre. But I just thought it was a nice blend, like a nice IP with a good fit of kind of game mode. But I think. It's clear that our winner in this category is Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is a bit of a weird choice for me as a more console-oriented player, and because it truly is a sim. It's a sim in the grandest sense. It's hard to handle all of the flight navigation and the controls and all that stuff. It's taxing on your machine as well. But holy crap, is it an accomplishment? And it's just staggeringly beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's also a great game in a weird year like this. And maybe I'm making too much of a reach here, but it's a year where we haven't been on planes. We haven't really been up in the sky, looking out a window of a plane all this year. And to be able to, we haven't been able to travel, to be able to explore the world from the cockpit of your own plane.
Yes.
I think kind of, this was maybe a weirdly good year for the new flight sim to come out.
Animal Crossing-esque, right? And,
well,
right? Like the right time for the right game. All of the marketing has been about that. It's all been about you can take your flight now and you can travel and you can see the world. And we do live on a beautiful planet. And God, the cities that we've created and the wilderness that surrounds it, and it's incredible to see a game have the horsepower to memorialize that and to celebrate that in such a magnificent way. But God, it's important that we protect it too, And that's the other side of this is we, in this year, have seen the fragility that exists on our planet. It's in us, but it's, we're acutely aware that we're all in this together. If we weren't thinking that before, we certainly are thinking that now. And a game that tethers everything like this, pretty profound. You know, a game that kind of showcases, because I don't know if the travel industry is ever going to go back to normal, man, or if we're decades away from that. I'm going to have second thoughts about getting on a plane for a long time.
We're definitely years away. I mean, even when things return to normal, as normal as things get, I think it's going to take a long time for the travel industry and the airline industry to bounce back. I mean, they're taking such a huge dent. It's going to be different for a while. So having a game that lets us get out there and be in an airplane without being in an airplane is, it was the right timing for this year.
Yeah, wonderful game. Wonderful game. Microsoft Flight Simulator, by the way, did win in the poll that I posted on the page. 224 votes so far. Microsoft Flight Simulator coming in at 46%, Horizon Zero Dawn Complete at 25%, and Death Stranding at 19%. So congrats to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I want to say thank you to XGR for this super chat and says, a real bummer you didn't have a great reception on these picks, but hey, it's your award show. So much respect. Thank you. Did Batwing win the crown in Fall Guys? Oh, you saw that in my B-roll, did you there, JBJ Blaze? Thank you for the super chat. And VR Grid, unsurprisingly, says next year I want to see VR titles included in every award nomination and not excluded because they are VR. I'm generalizing, not attacking anyone. Good comment, my friend. Keep needling me about my lack of placing VR stuff into context here. I am a huge fan of VR, and you guys know that. Adrian Leon says, thanks for making my video work on the show. No kidding, I was absolutely nervous. I loved your video, Adrian. I loved your honesty, and I love that you're so upfront about how nervous you are in our chat. But you did great, and your message was really on point, my friend. Thank you. Listen, this is a wonderful thing that we're all doing together. Tomorrow it is our Game of the Year show, and Marissa Roberto is going to join me. And I've got a whole bunch of guest submissions talking about their favorite games of the year. Before we say goodnight to everybody, I want to hear what your favorite game of 2020 is.
Oh man, I probably would go. I'd probably throw behind The Last of Us Part 2. I played it through twice, and I was starting the third playthrough when I got distracted, just because Naughty Dog had their own big shoes to fill with that, and I wasn't sure they would be able to do it. And I know the plot line was contentious. I know some of the characters were contentious. I know events that happened in the game were extremely contentious, but I respect the fact they took a little bit of a risk there. I liked the kind of parallel storytelling that they tried with that game, and I felt really, it left me wanting to know more about what happens after the game, but I felt satisfied with the way things ended. And the world they built and the visuals, again, were not to keep bagging on Cyberpunk, but I mean, the fact that The Last of Us Part 2 runs on 7-year-old hardware and looks as freaking amazing as it does, just again points to not only the storytelling talents of Naughty Dog, but their technical talents too. Like, nobody makes stuff look the way they look. So those guys went through the ringer too. There was a lot of negativity around that game when it launched, and again, a lot of attacking of developers, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
But no, I had high hopes for that game, and I feel like it met those. So I mean, I guess the game had the biggest impact on me. It's the game that I felt the most after playing. So I think if games are meant to be fun, but they're also meant to make us feel, and the game that makes me feel that much, I think it's got to be my game of the year.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned to see if The Last of Us 2 is one that gets discussed tomorrow. I think it will be. But we're gonna be back with another fun show tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much for your support and for being here and your submissions. We've got a lot more show to deliver tomorrow, so please come back for that. Steve Tilley, thank you, my friend. It is a treasure and a treat to have you here. I'm going to be bugging you in 2021, so get used to my texts.
Counting on it.
All right.
Counting on it.
Thank you, everybody. We will see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.